Hey there, School of Tomorrow students, teachers, philosophers, design scientists, random YouTubers who just dropped by to see what this guy in the hat is talking about in March of 2020, getting towards the end of March. First of all, I often show and tell some books. This will not be a new title. Like when I share books, it has nothing to do with that they're in any way just came out or something like that. It's kind of like books go into this eternal realm where when they were published doesn't matter that much. This becomes a classic in its own right. Another one in that vein is this book, Chaos, right? Because last time, I know that the systems department here at Portland State looks at dynamical systems quite a bit. I was fortunate to meet Ralph Abraham at the 1997 Mass Summit that Terry Bristol organized. And I know I was in a workshop with him. I seemed kind of like another one of those Bucky fanatics that he's met before. So he didn't have a lot of patience for me, I don't think. I think I was carrying around a Dymaxion projection or something. But so I'm going to chop this one up a little more. I'm experimenting today, but with the idea of chaos and where it comes in, think of this as the omnidirectional halo because it's spherical. Think of it spinning 25 great circles and so on. But this is high tide when all the spheres are touching all the spheres. And now, if I contract a little bit, it squeezes out the nucleus, you could say. Call it heartless if you will. But this would represent like pure rationality. This would be like a belief system, we could say. And the tension is, between your model of the world as it is, and if you have to flip and like adjust, come down in some other configuration. I'm trying to do that back and forth oscillation here. So this is kind of like a paradigm flip, right? This is like I'm a rational being and I understand my world, and then I have a cosmic intuition, boing, and now I understand my world like this. Some people they do it politically, left and right, left and right. They kind of go back and forth. You do have to upgrade, fine tune. These little mini deaths of your rational system, they occur, right? Your lifetimes occur. So that kind of thing. Part of synergetics. I haven't changed that much in terms of what I'm into, which is actually a friendly merger of traditions or lineages. Like, I think this American transcendentalist stuff that I traffic in is totally compatible with all that's gone before. And you can find passages and synergetics to that effect. It's not here to upset the apple cart that much, I don't think. It's here to continue with the explorations. Let's just have additional tools. So I go through some fairly traditional integration and differentiation concepts here and don't get into, well, why don't we use triangles instead of rectangles or all that. I just show area can be thought of in different ways and in my route to the unit volume tetrahedron. But that's fine, delta calculus can go on much as it always has on a rectilinear grid, linear regression, statistics. What I'm finding very interesting is the extent to which um, how we teach regular calculus doesn't go into statistics as much as it could at the high school level. I feel like they throw statistics out on a branch, and it's considered a deviation from the calculus track in a way. It's kind of one of those electives you can do if you're kind of disgusted with calculus, maybe, or you just don't want to. But they go together so much, right? Because your probability density function and your cumulative density function have this inverse relationship of one being the integral of the other. So, what I do in this introduction to calculus called StatsWorks is, even if you're not that sophisticated about, all this razzmatazz with the probability distribution function of the normal curve, it doesn't hurt to display it in late LaTeX, right? This language for writing fancy formulas. Like exposure is fine without complete mastery, right? So we're looking ahead for some people, we're looking back for others. The idea here would be keep it at the high school level, but what we mean by high school level is always changing. So like every 10 years or so in your life, you're going to like go to high school again. Get retooled, get reprogrammed. It's not a shameful or embarrassing thing to feel left behind, because when you're working on some project, the world moves on around you and there's a lot to get updated on. Now, I said I wasn't going to talk about COVID and all that much because everyone else is. In a way, that's kind of a joke, of course, because there's no getting away from statistics. This was on EduSig, where a differential equations model of how disease spreads gets fleshed out in terms of a lot of individual calculations done at great speed by our old friend the calculator of tomorrow. And I have no objections to like using calculators. I just find it a little bit funny how people who are sharing all this calculus and statistics on YouTube, they often pop up an emulated calculator. And instead of using what I would call the calculator of tomorrow, which doesn't mean anything in particular, except we're getting beyond just having calculators and their results that disappear. The thing about a notebook way of doing your work is as you go, you spell out the story, and when it's over, the story's done. You've got your work with the embedded calculations right there, right? So when you hand in your homework, the the things are right there. Now, in terms of handing in your homework, just to wind this up here, I am connected to a COVID stat source there, Johns Hopkins, through my daughter's GitLab account, right? So I can watch through that angle and learn some more Git. I'm not the super Git master that I could be. I'm like, again, high school would be great for me. I'd go in a minute, right? And learn to drive a truck. Send me back to the latest high school. Now that I've said my piece about the curriculum, it's time for us to enroll. By the way, general systems theory, I think, is the other piece that I would encourage in this connection where everyone's talking about, how it all comes to banks having all this money and that any money we get has to be a loan from a bank, right? I mean, that is the way it works a lot because money is a controlled substance. But the general systems theory reference frame, which includes energy economics, what Fuller called cosmic accounting. Now, he might have used the word cosmic too optimistically in his day. I'll go into that in a different video. But you can just say energy accounting, which means, like Pharaoh Amenhotep, or however you pronounce his name, we recognize the solar fusion furnace, the biosphere, the machinery that we're embedded in and works all around us is, of non-human origin and of non-human capabilities, right? We as little humans don't really have the kind of power that we need to do what we want to do, and that's why we harness the power of the Columbia River, for example, in the form of hydropower dams and so forth. So, as you know, in our data modeling or Earth's energy budget modeling, which we get into with futurism, another name for Martian math might be futurism. We need a positive futurism to have hope. And I'm hoping the Asylum City stuff, the general systems theory stuff, which shows that it's not the banks that we owe, it's the sun. And it's grant energy, not loan energy ultimately. But we bring intelligence to the equations. As humans on the balance sheet, that's our job, is to provide some intelligence. And that's what we've been doing with our civilization, right? Our escape from slavery. And that's what we're doing in this Bucky Fuller literature also. So I'm trying to have this hopeful push with sort of some futurism in it, but at the same time, not imply that we have to upset every apple cart that's out there gratuitously. Like, it's fun to have an American literature with a concentric or cosmic hierarchy of polyhedra. It's not essential that we tell everybody that they have to teach that or else, right? It's more like, do you have a curriculum that includes it or don't you? And if not, maybe you'd like to go back to high school, which is just figuratively means it's not, super hard really, but it's also maybe not like you have to actually physically go to a brick and mortar place. Like, I guess when they say free college for everybody, like Bernie Sanders and people have said, I think free high school would be fine, right? It doesn't have to be college, but if you go to a really good, like a prep school, like if, like if your high school is really good, then that's like a college. So I'm not saying high schools can't compete, and I'm not putting any age restriction here. It's like any age group or cohort is fine at all levels, right? Because you're kind of in elementary school when you don't know the language at all, when you're just going into Chinese culture or whatever, and you don't speak Chinese or vice versa. It helps to kind of start with Sesame Street type stuff, right? All right, talk to you soon.